You're listening to the ASQ Podcast for a transformational approach to life and leadership, blending soul wisdom with modern insight to create outer impact.
Yeah. It's customary for us to ask this question, where were you pitched? So if you don't mind, tell us where were you born? Tell us a little bit your foundational life. Where did it all start?
Well, almost 70, well, over 70 years ago, actually. So I got a little bit of gray hair. So anyway,
It's like fine wine, right? Like fine wine.
I think so. I like that. I'm aging well.
Yes.
Anyway, now I'm up here in Canada, Edmonton, Alberta, born and raised. Went over to Vancouver for a year, Vancouver, BC, and lived there. Didn't like it. It was too wet. Gorgeous place, absolutely stunning. But I'd rather deal with cold winters than rainy weather. So not doesn't work for me. So humidity doesn't work. Yeah, especially when it's cold, it goes right through your bones. So anyway, yeah, so lots of different things. I mean, lots of different things happened to me over the years, even growing up, lots of that. Got into helping people at a very young age. A young lady, when I was 11, 12, saw her thrown out of a car in the middle of winter, and she was wearing a short dress and heels and no jacket, and freezing and crying. Obviously, her boyfriend was done and sort of literally threw her out of the car. And I was there, so I gave her my jacket, and there was a restaurant not nearby, or that fairly close within a block. And I walked her there and bought her a coffee and got her secured up. Yeah, so that was one of many sort of situations that happened to me at a young age.
Now, a lot of that stuff that you talk, and we're going to get into the mind models and all those things like that. But a lot of it has to do with the values that we bring up, that we get as we grow up, and based on those experiences. So tell us about like those formative values that were passed down to you by your parents, your community, and that sort of thing.
Well, my dad was a major part of the community, volunteering in the YMCA here, and was vice president and president. My mom was very heavy into volunteering as well with mental health, so that was huge. So even at the ripe old age of 5, I was being voluntold to come with her to do stuff with Canadian Mental Health and out at one of the hospitals. And I became 5, 6 years old. I was now a square dance caller for a young kids group of square dancers that would entertain out in hospitals and whatnot. In this case, it happened to be a mental health hospital. And so that was formative years. Again, I was about 14 and out being voluntold again to go out to the summer camp for people from the hospital. And I met this guy, Archie, who was pretty crazy. And I say crazy with love and respect, but
out the box.
Well, no, it's way more. He was nuts. He was full-time incarcerated, well, more or less, but anyway, he talked to himself. He was very out there. A lot of psychobabble going on. And I wound up playing, we had a beach ball in the pool. He was in the pool, bouncing it back and forth and just, playing with him. And it was gross because he had all kinds of runny nose that was in a very thick mustache. So it was very caked on, very gross. But psychobabble left, right, and center. Later that day, I wind up seeing him sitting on a lawn chair, a Adirondack chair right in front of the cabin, and he was talking to himself again. And I don't know what struck me, but I wound up sitting beside him. And it just seemed appropriate to start talking in psychobabble as well. So I did. And then like we were both talking, and then it got into this rhythm where he'd say something crazy and I'd say something crazy back. And we went back and forth, probably a good 10 minutes.
Uh-huh.
And then he stops and he turns to me and he looks at me, and he knew my name. He said, "Blair, you're talking crazy. You know that?" And I said, "Yeah, I know that." I said, "Archie, you're talking crazy too." And he said, "Yeah, but I am crazy." I go, that is the most sane thing a crazy person can basically say, is like they're aware of their craziness. And that just lit my brain up, almost 50 years later or more. It still sticks in my brain as how aware he was for how crazy he was. And maybe people aren't necessarily as stuck as you think they are. And so that was one of many life experiences that caused me to look at how people can choose and shift on their own. And so when I was going out and visiting, my mom took training as a life skills coach, then a life skills coach trainer. And she was doing life skills coaching for mental health in the area. And I saw that. And I would go in with people that were being trained up as coaches to help and facilitate and do that. I would go in and sit in on the groups, and I got to participate. They asked me questions and I responded. And eventually, by the time I was the ripe old age of 21, I got trained up as the youngest coach in the country at that point.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So your life has really been an evolution in mental health, because again, I mean, the way that we think of mental health now compared to that time is completely different, and it's completely transformed. So you've seen the progression of it all.
Absolutely.
And all that started at a young age.
Absolutely. Very young age. And, I'm up here in Canada, as you know, and I'm the guy that wrote the definition for coaching, actually non-athletic coaching then it was, we have, you have your IRS, we have our CRA, but back then, before the CRA was the CRA, a different iteration was Revenue Canada. And Revenue Canada did not have a industrial designation for non-athletic coaching. And I'd already been running our coaching college for a couple of years, and people were saying, well, I'm a life skills coach, and I'm a basic job readiness training coach, and I'm a life coach, and I'm a relationship coach, and all of these different things that we were offering back in the day. And all of a sudden, Revenue Canada writes me and says, could you write us the description to see if we've got anything like this? Maybe the title's different, but we've got something similar. And so I write it back, and I listed off about, 30, 40 things that we're doing in coaching, like probation, parole, life coaching, relationship coaching, business coaching, all kinds of coaching that people do. They wanted like micro definitions for, and so I did that.
Wow.
And about 2 months later, they wrote back and said, well, Blair, we haven't found anything like this in our database. You actually have defined an industry.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Wow. It's interesting that you mentioned that. And I wasn't planning to ask this particular question about coaching, right? Because I did my training as a coach, and I'm associated with the ICF.
Right.
And there's a specific definition when it comes to coaching. And if you don't mind talking about that, right? Because right now, it's such a easily used word.
Yes.
But there is a very specific way to go about it. Can you clarify what that is, because a lot of people get confused about what coaching is. I have a certain understanding based on the training, right? And that basic understanding is that understanding is that the client has their own answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is your definition so that way we could clarify it in the midst of all this jargon that we see constantly?
We partially agree. The client has their own answers, but they may lack an ability, a set of skills. And back in the day, it started out as life skills. And now I've shifted it because I did 17 and a half years of research at the college. And they don't have the models to actually shift themselves. And so I took the fundamental constructs of the research done, the $42 million of 5 years of research done, which I don't know if that exists. In fact, at the time, like back in around 2018, 2017, 2018 in there, I'd done some research and nobody had spent that kind of money or that kind of time focusing on the science of coaching. And up here in Canada, we define 362 core competencies that people need. So you're nodding your head and you went, well, that's 2. That's in the following category. That's called is called verbal following, and the nodding your head is called nonverbal following, very specifically. And that is 2 of, one part, like an A and a B in following, how we follow properly. But if I sit here and talk to you like this, and I just do this with just basically no eye movement, no head movement and whatnot, notice how it already gets weird for you?
Yes, uncomfortable. Yeah.
Very. And so these things, especially in the area of mental health, but not only there, people with phobias, fears, anxieties, PTSD, behavior patterns that are social anxiety, you name it, and lacking work performance, like in other words, they only get up so far and then they self-sabotage. These are all identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable behaviors that I've modeled that actually comes into the category of mind models, where you can actually train somebody to be able to see. I've also got trained up in mindset.
Okay.
And mindset, I apologize to all the coaches that are doing mindset, but I don't, because you need to know this. So there is research that was very good quality research that has been done, and it was published in the Association of Psychological Science on mindset, taking a look at probably the preeminent book, which is called Mindset. And that book and the author of the book are basically evaluated and tested scientifically with a double-blind study. And they found that mindset works at best 1% of the time.
Oh, wow.
And at worst, it can hold you back up to 12%, like a negative 12%.
Wow. I mean, and we use that so often, though. Like it's everywhere, it's so popularized, but just 1%.
Do you know where a mindset came from? Mindset came out of the Industrial Revolution over a century and a half ago.
Wow. So completely outdated.
Hello, when do you use antiques to say, oh, this is the most modern stuff we have? Okay, get a Model T and go driving that.
Yeah, go drive it around.
Okay, like, hello, just...
Your hips are going to come off.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, just figure this stuff out. These are antiquated models, yet they're touted because it's easy to market. And the thing that really pisses me off is the fact that mindset fundamentally is broken.
Yeah.
I got trained up as a mindset facilitator. My dad went into a coma and my mindset broke. And that was the main impetus that caused me to go out there and say, I got to figure out something else, because for 4 years prior to that, I thought mindset was the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
Until you have a crisis, or you do not have the requisite behaviors, not beliefs.
Yeah.
Again, go on to, geez, I'm sorry. I could see his face. He's a guy that does stuff from Stanford University, and it's Andy Huberman, Huberman Labs.
Yes, Huberman Lab. Yes.
Right. Go on to his stuff on that and check out mindset beliefs versus behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, that might work. But he did a whole piece on which is more effective for you to believe that things work or you to change your behaviors. And there's great research on this again. And change your behaviors. Don't try and go, oh, I believe I can do this. Because the odds of that happening are probably a negative 12%.
Yeah.
Because you haven't changed the requisite behaviors. And if you have, and you believe, and you happen to have the requisite behaviors to make that happen, it'll work.
It will work. Yeah.
Okay, but if you don't, you're screwed.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I always talk about like what things mean in the conversations that I have when I coach, when I and one of the things that is key in what you just mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, is this idea of, in order for you to really have a belief, you need to have certain discipline, right? So for instance, one of the practices that I have that has been completely helpful for me, it's being able to sit in the morning for 5-10 minutes, right? And sit in the evening for 5-10 minutes, just to write down, this is what I want, this is how I want to think about, this is how I want to feel, this is what I want to do. 3 actions a day, no more, no less. Anything else after that is groovy, right? But what I hear a lot of people thinking, and again, I've learned a lot of this, believe it or not, from esoteric teachings, and things of that nature. But what I see in our culture is this expediency for a quick fix, right? But what you're talking about, again, I just want you to clarify, is everything starts, yes, with a thought, but the behavior needs to follow immediately right after. Is that what you're trying to say? Or more or less,
Right.
or there's a discipline that needs to follow with?
No, actually, I would argue more that even if you don't quite know the behavior,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't think it through, I mean, does a baby get up and walk because they thought it through?
No, it's true. It's instinctive.
No, it's actually not instinctive.
Hmm.
It's called mimicry.
Okay.
And that's the number one way people learn, is through mimicry. So when we see, like my daughter saw 2 of her cousins running back and forth, and running around our kitchen, through the kitchen, dining room, living room, hallway, back into the kitchen, and we're running around like crazy. And she was crawling at the time. And she would chase after them on her hands and knees as fast as she could. And then she'd hear them screaming around, coming around the other way. She'd turn around and start going towards them, and then turn around and try and follow them and join in.
Uh-huh.
And eventually, like after, 7, 8 times of them passing by and screaming, having a great time doing that, she plopped back on her butt and just started watching them and going, I got to do, I don't know what she said in her brain. She wasn't talking. She was before nonverbal at that moment. Anyway, 2 days later, she was walking. Okay. She was going, I want to do that. In her brain, some version of that. But she didn't have even words to say, I want to do that.
Yes.
So does it need that kind of thought, or just seeing that thing and saying, not even saying, just thinking, walking, talking, running, doing that, I can do that. And she would pull herself up, and within 2 days later, she was walking, taking her first step 2 days later, and within another day, walking.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah. No,
so it's that's crazy. But that is mimicry.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other way that we learn, as we get verbal And by the time we're 6, 7, 8, 9, um, definitely by the time we're in our teens, we're using a lot of compare and contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone, but the vast majority of my mind models are about compare and contrast, because that's the second way we learn, like effective versus ineffective. Now, some people go, and mindset people do this all the time. They go good, bad, right, wrong, better, best, all of these comparative things. But the problem with that is that's all judgmental language.
Mm-hmm.
And so you feel good, you feel bad, you feel whatever it is. And if you feel good, you still know there's still another shoe to fall because you could screw up.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I can see that.
And that's some of the stuff, because it's not being evaluated. And the whole thing, when you change your language, see, part of my research showed that we behave to the meanings of our words.
Okay.
Okay. So your meaning for discipline infers behavior, but doesn't state it.
Yes.
But if you stated it more, because I researched discipline, because I thought that was what I needed, was a disciplined mind, all of this stuff. Well, it's not a bad thing,
No.
but is that the optimal?
Yeah.
And I go, well, not really.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because most people like willpower. If you read the studies on willpower is unsustainable.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it. Like psychologically, it's an unsustainable model. And people say, well, just use willpower. And I go, bullshit.
No.
That does not work.
No.
Like long term, if you're going to change your life, willpower will not work.
Yeah.
But what will work, and you don't even have to believe it or in it or not, are mind models, because mind models are extensively tested thought frameworks and big deal, behaviors.
Behaviors primarily.
So we're pairing, smushing thought frameworks, how to think, not what to think, but how to think and behave.
Yeah.
And bring those two together. Whereas mindset is what to think and what to believe. Okay. Belief is unsustainable without effective behaviors. And my research, again, 17 and a half years into belief systems, have basically proven, I don't care what you believe, if you change your behavior and repeat and test that behavior and evaluate it, you will change your belief. Because if it's effective for you, you'll do more of it. How come? Because it's hardwired in for survival.
Yeah. So what you're focusing on is those that instinctive nature of us to mimic, to look and observe, to deduce, and then be able to kind of like formulate a new way to approach things.
So what do you mean by instinctive?
Well, so one of the things that you mentioned, right, that I thought it was interesting is that idea that you really can focus your will, right, 100%, right, and because it's almost impossible, but also there are those things in us that are drives, that need for self-preservation is one of those instinctive things, to feel good, to belong, to have that sense of well-being. That's one of the things that drive us, right? So
Okay, can I ask you a question around that?
absolutely.
Well, are those drivers fundamental or secondary?
I think those are fundamental, in my opinion, because we have to have those, right? In order
No,
to.
you don't have to have those.
Oh, no. Okay.
So in mental health, a lot of people don't have those. People with good mental health have them, and they view them as default. But they don't look at what actually built their what they think is a default. What do they actually have? Well, you've got great coping. You've got great language skills. You've got interpersonal skills as well. You've got great thought skills. All of those are far more fundamental than all of the stuff that you're laying out there to me and saying that's fundamental. And I go, hold it. Then if it's fundamental, it has to apply across the board. But people with mental health challenges, they don't have those.
That's true. That's true.
So that means there's a gap. So it can't be fundamental, can it?
No, I guess not.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because you mentioned some. I mean, I was taking notes when you were saying, because I love I love what you mentioned about mimicking, right, and comparing and contrasting. So in a scenario that I come across, I work with a lot of people in trauma that have
Right.
experienced trauma as children, and that have come across environments that haven't been suitable. So since we are dealing with mimicking, and you're seeing the environment, so you're responding to it, and then you're comparing and contrasting, how does a person get to a point in which, let's say, for instance, Erickson's adolescent stage, in which they're trying to identify who they are? So then all these things are coming up. How would you guide a person to get to a point in which they're strong enough, they have a strong identity, but they're not operating from those experiences, that with adverse experiences as a child? How would you go about doing that using the mind models? Because I'm curious as to the
Okay,
practicality
those
of
are
it.
two different things. The Erickson
Okay.
stuff and Ericksonian stuff that's there. If somebody is first year university, got an intellectual capacity,
Mhm,
that stuff will work.
mhm,
But if you're talking about somebody who doesn't have that, if you're talking about somebody basic or somebody who doesn't believe that that will work, and notice I said believe, because they go, okay, that triggers my intellectual capacity. That belief model is there. I believe this could work, so I'm going to find a way to make it work.
mhm,
But they ignore all the behaviors that they already have, so they can't name and label what actually is that thing that works, as opposed to what might I do differently.
okay.
And so what I do is, okay, first things first, let me give you a real world example, a
Uh-huh.
case study, if you will. So I trained up a couple a full year before this tragedy happened to them. On Mother's Day, a year after they took coach training, mind model method coach training, they wound up going out with their children, two girls, one age 3, the other one 7, and they went into a slot canyon in Utah. And unfortunately, Becky and Tim Graft and their 2 children, Tim wasn't there. He was getting the truck fixed. But Becky and the 2 girls went hiking up their favorite place,
Yeah.
and there was a flash flood.
Oh, wow.
And, in a slot canyon, the wall of water is not a trickle. That's like, I don't know, 8, 12 feet of water coming
High
down
speed.
at high speed. You ain't going to outrun it. You're not going to do anything. And unfortunately, both girls perished.
Oh.
And Becky just about lost her life too. As Becky was being rushed to the hospital, Tim was out hunting for his girls. Unfortunately, Tim found that day one of the 2 girls, and the next day the next girl. And he found both of those girls. They wrote a book. Well, actually, Becky wrote the book called Swept Away. It's on Amazon. And they talk about how they used their faith. Yes, lots of faith in there, but a lot of mind models. So they did not need to go in for ongoing therapy. They went through and started identifying what is effective and what's ineffective for them. And so they went, instead of saying, is this good, bad, right or wrong? They parked that because they knew that if they got in that whole thing, it would blow up.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, one was using like, it's called the 3 E's. And I'll give your listeners a free book, a free gift on the 3 E's book called Mind Models. And in that, there should be a link to an hour and 20-minute free course that I'll give them on how to use that. Very powerful, very effective stuff. So on that, you wind up going out there, and they didn't use the same mind models at the same time with each other, just with themselves. But they heard how the other person was talking and how the other person was processing. and they helped keep each other out of judgment, but kept on evaluating. One used self-other situation in a massive way. Tim used that a lot. And Becky used the 3Es and clarity versus certainty and safety versus comfort a lot. And to be able to process herself and communicate effectively with her husband. And they have an amazing relationship. In fact, I was just talking with them earlier today. And they are strong, they are healthy, and they are getting opportunities to share their process of how they went through such tragedy.
Yeah.
And how strong they are as individuals and as a couple because of mind models and the way that they structured their process.
Yeah.
So when you take a look at this and you said, so do you look at the belief? They didn't believe that they could get through this. They didn't know.
Yeah.
The stats say there's no freaking way you guys are staying together as a couple. Okay, it's almost 95% of couples get divorced, or higher even than that. It's like they're rare as hen's teeth. But that whole thing shifts because of mind models, because they changed their behaviors. Becky needed to confront where she was going, and like they went back within somewhere like 90 days. They got back to the slot canyon where they lost their girls.
Oh, wow.
Like, some people say, well, what are you doing having to confront that? And they just were talking about another guy that they were chatting with, who was one of the people who was on the rescue, like searching for the girls. He hasn't been back to the canyon because he can't cope with it.
Wow.
In 5 years.
And they did it right after.
They did it right after because she wanted to be able to ensure that externally versus internally verifiable is a mind model. One of the 3Es, second one. And so she goes, I want to keep this experience externally verifiable, not let my internal stuff.
Can you explain that a little bit, right? Because from what I understanding, it's almost separating the emotions and the feelings that we get from what happened. Can you explain that, the external and the internal?
Well, I'm going to give it to you with a slightly deeper mind model.
Okay.
Which is remember versus relive.
Okay.
So we can relive, and the man that had been helping them 5 years ago, whenever he went back, he was reliving, and he couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And when we relive, it tends to grow the emotions. Okay, but when we remember, the emotions are named and labeled. And I, in my research, found that there are 2 fundamental types of emotions. Ones that are based on what we feel, and the other based on why we feel. The why is all story. Why can you do that? Why did I do that? Why didn't I? Why am I so dumb? Like all that why stuff. Like, I can't figure this out. Why can't I figure this out? Do you notice how it leads with negative emotion?
It's like a pit that you're just digging yourself into.
Absolutely. It's a pit of despair.
Yes,
or a spiral down.
Yeah.
And so I go, that why loads past information with emotion and creates reasons, excuses, rationalizations, and justifications.
Yeah.
And we tend to blame everybody else because we don't want to acknowledge that ourselves.
Yeah.
But if we can go, what I'm feeling sadness. I'm feeling hurt. I'm afraid, and I'm feeling like I can't, if I go there, like Becky was saying initially, what if I went back to that same slot canyon? Can I cope with that? Well, if I can hold myself in the present and talk to you, Tim, about all of the events that happened, I can compare with where I'm at now and see the difference. Could we do that? Yeah. So they went there. She talked. She cried.
Yeah.
Like normal. She's crying. She lost her kids there. But she evaluated. She didn't judge. She goes, are what I'm feeling reasonable, not realistic, but reasonable in the moment? Absolutely, it's reasonable. There's a lot of sadness at that spot. And she remembered it. She didn't relive it. Because had she been reliving it, she would have been caught up in the water, caught up in everything, getting banged around, getting her body was abraded. 70% of her body was abraded, like skin rubbed off.
Yeah.
Okay, this is painful stuff. And she was in the hospital for quite a while. It's just shy of a burn.
Wow.
Okay. So, because everything's raw and red and that sort of thing. So, I mean, she survived it, but now how does she reconnect?
Yeah.
Well, she shared that she needed to talk to Tim because she thought she drifted into a why. Tim's going to hate me because I couldn't protect her kids. Well, she again asked the question, do you hate me? Like, what are you feeling? I'm concerned you're going to hate me. And Tim looked at her and said, what could you do? One of the other mind models that we use is acceptance. And it's yes, acceptance generally works that way, but the mind model of acceptance is going deeper into accepting what is.
Yeah, what is.
Not what you want it to be or what you hoped it would be or what you expected it to be. It's what is. And Tim said, thank you, Blair, for teaching me acceptance and dealing with what is. Because between that and self-other situation, you can only control yourself.
Yeah.
You can't control the situation and you can't control others, but you can only control yourself.
Yeah.
And when the water is flowing at 30 miles an hour or 20 miles an hour, and it's tons, a wall of 10 foot, 20 foot high wall of water.
Yeah.
You holding on to our child is not reasonable. You're getting smacked down. You're trying to breathe. You're trying to survive. And our daughter gets washed out of your arms. I accept that as part of the situation that you were thrust into.
Yeah.
You didn't choose that. You reacted to that. That's not within your power to control.
Now, why is this so hard? Because again, what you're saying to me, the reality of it is so logical, right? It's perfect sense. It's like we can't control everything.
But it's also emotionally logical as well. Because the emotion of this is, if you don't get caught up in what you wished it to be,
yes,
and you deal with accepting what is, you deal with your sadness, your loss. And simultaneously, Tim recognized that he still had his wife. He could have lost her too.
Now, let me ask you this, because I'm curious about this particular part, right? Because identity, sometimes we tie our identity to our points of pain because it feels comfortable. What do you say to people about this? Because you're asking for extreme vulnerability, right? Or what the models required is to be vulnerable and being honest and realistic about what's happening. But people, some of us,
you're saying I'm asking for extreme vulnerability.
Well, I'll take that back. It's vulnerable to be present in the moment and have those feelings because our default is to be safe and we want to hold on to
what if we know, like we've got another mind model called safety versus comfort?
Yes.
Okay, and in that situation, Becky could neither be safe nor comfortable.
Non-comfortable. Yes.
And when we take a look at it in terms of self-other situation, she had no control over this.
Yeah.
Okay. It's fully in the situation.
Mhm.
All she can do is react to that situation. She can't even respond to it. She can just react, and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then what do you say, what advice will you give to people in terms of um, using these models, allowing themselves to feel the emotions without the attachment to the ifs and the what ifs, instead of waiting on the safety nets and because again, we give our identity sometimes our pain, and our pain is our identity, and we don't want to hold on to that because that's not life. We want to expand, we want to grow. What would you say to people about challenging that comfort of pain and staying there? Because I see that quite a bit.
Yes. Well, people are stuck in their whys. And that pain that you're saying, and they're staying there, that's their story.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
why they're there.
Yeah.
So they got to learn the mind model, question concepts, get out of their why, and start focusing on what they feel and describe their feeling. And what I'd say is, first of all, read my book,
Yes.
Ultimate Mind Hacking. And it goes through 23 unhealthy mindsets and gives you 16 strategies to conquer. With 16 mind models that are in that book, you can conquer all of those 23 mindsets. Now, you stack them, you put them together in patterns like little recipes, behavioral recipes. And I don't care if you believe them or not, just do them.
Do it. Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
And the odds are 80% of the people that just do it, whether or not they believe that it'll work or not, or they even tell themselves this isn't going to work, but just do it reasonably fairly.
Yeah.
Don't do it in your brain and think that works, because these are not hypothetical.
Yeah.
You actually have to do this, because if you do it in your brain, you're lying to yourself. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
You have to behave these. Okay. Not think about them, because thinking is very different than behaving.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if we could just think our way to $1 million, everybody would be a millionaire.
Manifested, right?
Right, exactly. Woo, it pops into
It
existence.
comes up out of nowhere.
It doesn't work that way.
No, it does not. It does not.
So that's BS.
Yeah.
But we think we want that, and yet if we get it, like people who win the lottery.
Now, what happens afterwards, though?
3 to 5 years on average,
On average.
90+% are in worse condition than they were before they won the lottery.
Yes, it is true. That's absolutely.
So we have evidence that even when you get that kind of money, you don't know how to manage it. Yeah, and it's not about the money. It's about your mind, about how you think, not what you think.
Yeah. So
how you think.
Let me ask you this. Now, typically we stop at 40, but I can't, 40 minutes or so. Well, I can't stop right now because I have you in here and I'm interested. As you can see, I'm like, whoa, let me go. If it's okay with you.
I'm good. I'm good for quite a few more hours.
All right. If it's okay with you. So let's say, for instance, one of the things that I mentioned earlier was that idea of discipline, and you rightly so said, think about it in a different way, right? Now, when it comes to stacking these behaviors, and what would be an approach that you would suggest? Because again, for me, discipline is just taking 5 minutes a day, right? That's discipline for me because I'm all over the place.
No. Time out. Okay. That is a discipline, not the discipline.
Correct.
And you said, for me, it's the discipline. No. It is a discipline.
Yes.
And that discipline is actually a behavior.
Okay. So that's what I was getting like. So, because again,
your behavior of doing your discipline for 5 to 10 minutes a day is a proven methodology for mindfulness, but it's not the thing that you titled as behavior. Or as discipline. It's not the discipline. It's the behavior of doing that.
Gotcha.
And every time, our brain operates off habit patterns.
Yes.
And when we build a habit pattern of the thing that you call discipline, it's actually something that you're doing in an identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable model. And because that's happening at more or less the same time every day, and you've set yourself to do that, guess what? It takes your brain less energy to do that. Neuroscience again kicks in, because every time we habituate, we create highways in our brain that actually take less energy. Our brain burns less calories to do that than not to do it. So that's what makes the mind model so effective is, first of all, they're things that most of us have, most of these mind models at a subconscious level. We just haven't named and labeled them.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but we behave to our names and labels. You've got a meaning to the word discipline, which is your meaning of the word discipline, not the meaning of the word discipline. So the people that you're out there sharing this with and calling it discipline, you need to discipline, they don't have the same meaning.
Correct.
So it's not going to align.
Yeah.
That's how come I tested every single mind model to work 80% of the time, the first time you use it, or better. How come? And that means that the word meanings are intentionally aligned with how 80% or more of the population will actually behave to those words.
In those type of ways. Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But discipline is your custom word, makes it sound good to you, and it sounds good to people, but they don't know how to behave it. So they can't adapt it easily. And I want, like, there's a book called Made to Stick or something like that. And it's about sticky behaviors. And sticky behaviors are those things that pre-exist at a subconscious or conscious level that we're not completely aware of. And that's what I went after. I went after sticky behaviors so that people could try something on and they'd want to do it more. And how come? Because it's all about survival.
Yeah.
We've learned how to survive by creating these models, by trying something, doing something, and it worked, and we want to do it again.
And also by trying, and this is one thing, right? That, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we also find what not to do when we take actions, but we tend to get stuck on that, on the things that, oh, this didn't work, so I don't want to try something else.
True, but how come? Because we've been punished for wrong.
Yes.
And like, especially in school.
Yes.
You're graded on all the red X's. And, all of a sudden we are great. We feel bad.
Yeah.
And so that is all part of this why structure. And why creates all of these. I have not yet met a single person who has some form of mental illness who has not got why-based language pattern.
Yeah.
They all do. All 100%. You change people by getting them to evaluate fairly in a balanced, fair self-evaluation. And that requires them to take a look at what they did and how they did it. It may not be perfect, but it was not completely all bad. And so all of a sudden it becomes, oh, this part is effective. This part is ineffective. What might I change?
Yeah.
And by asking that simple question, what might I change? And back to the thing that you were saying earlier, how would I address that person? I'd ask them that simple question. What might you change?
Yeah. Now those are coaching modalities right there, right? Asking what questions?
Well, yeah, but the coaching modalities don't go into the language and the structure of those, of my simple question. Like the word might. The word might has two major meanings: power and possibility. Might, power, mighty mouse. Possibilities, many things. Subconsciously, your brain can't distinguish between subconscious meaning. It's the conscious mind that does that. So what might you do differently as opposed to the same thing that you tried before? So I'm telling that person they have to throw out all the stuff they've done before and come up with something to do differently now, which brings them back into the present, because we can only change the present.
Yeah.
We cannot change the future.
Yeah.
So this is like, 2% of what I train people on in my model method coach training.
Mhm.
And maybe 1% of how I manage people who have phobias, fears, and anxieties, because you can go way deeper by getting people to help them rewire their brain,
Yeah.
by getting them to do behaviors in conjunction with language patterns.
Mhm.
And that way you can, that way
Yeah.
you can scramble the existing pattern in their mind without causing them to forget it,
Yeah.
without causing them to repress it, but just disconnect the pathway from, oh, here's my trigger and there's my fear. Well, you don't have to have that locked in. But people who have phobias, like I had a phobia, phobia of heights, fear of heights,
Okay.
very phobic. And I taught the dean of Kwantlen Polytechnic University my model of counseling, one of them, operant effectual counseling, and I taught him that, and he loved it. And he said, well, that's a very rapid counseling model. Most counseling sessions would take between 5 and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
From, hi, how are you?
Wow, really?
Yeah, really. From start to finish with
Huh.
somebody I've never met before.
Wow. So you build relationships and everything, or you just go straight to the point?
No, that is it. You can't dive into straight to the point, but I'll tell you right now, 45 minutes to an hour, and it's all done. And only 5 to 20 minutes of it was taken up with the counseling.
Wow. Now, why? Okay, now I'm being sarcastic. Why is this not more popular, right? Because there's people that spend their lifetime in counseling and therapy,
And
but
my coaching methodology does exactly the same thing, but it does a slightly smoother job of getting people to that. So it's again around an hour, but
yeah,
the coaching part of it, the transformational coaching part, 5 to 15 minutes.
wow,
In fact, one of my clients, first time I met him, had an issue with self-sabotage. He is a very high-performing 24-year-old in Austria that has a $200 million farm with 140 employees, and he's in charge of it at 24.
wow, that's impressive.
He's not a farmer. What he is he's a software engineer, a programmer of sorts, who is actually a program architect.
Yes.
He also runs a server farm as well on the side. Well, it was his main job until he got this other one.
Yeah.
So, and I helped him with self-sabotage because that's what was happening to him. He was undermining himself. He was second guessing himself.
Yeah.
But that only took 10 minutes to get him to walk through how to think differently. And then because it's so effective so fast, it just sticks.
Yeah. Now, once I go through this, because this is, I'm very intrigued, because I mean, again, the power of our mind and our language and our internal dialogue and our subconscious is so. It's in the popular culture, the way that it's shared, it's not as intricate and detailed as you are explaining it, which is
No,
problematic to the masses, right?
it's generalized.
Yeah, way too
And every
generalized.
time it goes out there and it's generalized. Have you ever thought about this? Like, you're a coach, think about it a little bit. Can you change a generalization? Like, if you state something generally, can you change it?
It's hard because I mean,
No. Can you actually, not only is it hard, but can you actually do that?
it depends on what it is, I guess, right? I mean,
Think about this. Like you cannot change anything that's general.
Well, yeah, sorry. You know what? I'm thinking about, the traditional way of a stereotyping or grouping, but generalizing, no, you can't. You can't really
Well,
change.
even stereotyping, which is a generalization of a type, can you change it, or can you just call it that's what it is? Can you change that stereotype?
No.
Not until you become specific and say, I don't like that stereotype. I'm going to explore that and see what that's all about. And that means you got specific.
Yes. Yeah. See, and this is the challenge for me, right? Because again, I look at stereotypes and I always say, well, in any group you have your deviations of people. So even though you pick one thing and generalize a group, not everybody's like that,
Correct.
But that's because, I've been involved in this domain, so it's a little different. So when you say, when I generalize something, or when I think about generalization, to me, it's like, well, you have your standard deviation. Yeah, you got your spectrum.
Sure, absolutely. But stop for a second. Is a client a standard deviation?
Yes.
Is a client?
Yeah.
How? They are one. How can you have a standard deviation from one chunk, one data point, one person?
Yeah, from that point, no. From if it's an individual, no, you have one.
Exactly. But see, the problem here is you generalized it to how science looks at it and took that person as part of that whole. But what if you break that out? Then all of a sudden, they're not part of the general. They're specific to them.
Yes, they're unique on them.
They're unique because everybody is unique. And we know that as well, but we don't treat them as unique. We treat them because that's how, a lot of sociology treats the masses.
Yeah.
As opposed to the individual.
Yes. Yeah.
But if we treat the individual, which we do as coaches and counselors, we can only treat the individual, but most of that research is done on masses.
Yes, exactly. Yes. That reminds me of Carl Jung has a book, Modern Man in Search of a Soul. And he has this analogy of you take 100 pebbles from outside, you put them on the bag, you weigh them, you measure them. It's very unlikely that you're going to find that specific pebble if you take one out. So, but yes, that's one of the issues with probability when it comes to human beings.
Bingo.
And I mean, it is our attempt to try to make sense of the diversity and the complexity of the world, but it does take away from the individual.
But what if we see, this is where I approach things differently in my research.
Which is what I like this conversation.
Yeah. So I go, okay, that's how everybody else did it.
Yeah.
But I had at our peak 1,000 students, 800 of them every night potentially suicidal.
Oh, wow.
And 35 years of having people potentially kill themselves every night. I needed a way to deal with individuals in a manner that gives the individual not only the power of choice, but the ability to find a way through.
Yeah.
And that's where mind models, well, that's because my dad was in the coma, for 14 years. And 2 weeks after he went into the coma, the doctor called the family together and said, your father, your husband, your dad is likely, he's got a 99% chance of never coming out of a coma. I was already trained up as a mindset facilitator. I went home, I took a shower that night, and I collapsed in the shower crying, convulsively crying, breaking down. You could call it a nervous breakdown. But I crawled out of the shower, turned off the water, pulled a towel on myself and cried on the floor.
Oh,
The
wow.
next thing I clearly remember was calling up my mindset facilitator, my trainer, and asking her for help. And she said, come on by. I'd already run an hour and a half worth of exercises on me, but it didn't work. I couldn't fix myself. So she ran exercises on me for another hour and a half. In fact, the same exercises, and nothing changed. And I told her that. And she looked at me and said, Blair, you don't believe enough. And I went, fuck you,
Yeah.
and left.
Yeah.
Now, I never talked to her again, but in that second of giving her the bird and F you, I knew mindset was broken. Mindset did not keep its promise because it blamed me for its failure.
Yeah.
And I was never going to do that to anybody.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, in the 4 years that I was a mindset coach and life skills coach, I had ignored some of my students, and I felt horrible afterwards because they were telling me that their mindset wasn't working. Fortunately, life skills worked. With life skills, we had a 76.2% success rate with that. And these are with mental health people that, like, nobody else was having that kind of success rate. And then we got it higher because of the mind models that I was starting to create, more consistent, and enabling our coaches not to turn and burn. So they were burning out.
Yeah,
well,
that's something else that happens in the industry.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't have to,
It
because
doesn't have
mindset coaches don't really burn out. They know how not to. Because if you had a way like operant effectual counseling, I created that counseling methodology for life skills coaches of the day and turned it into a coaching methodology. But OEC, operant effectual counseling, is burnout proof counseling, because I don't need to know your problem in order to counsel you. That means if I don't know the content of your problem and I help you get a process for you to process your own content, I don't hear it. And so I don't burn out. I can't.
And then you're giving them the autonomy and the self-reliance as well.
And therefore, they're safe when I send them home.
Yeah.
Because, well, they can choose to kill themselves. They just know how not to. And the number one reason that people kill themselves is because of psychological pain, and they can't end it. But by using that methodology of OEC, operant effectual counseling, and RFQ, resource-focused questioning, the questions get people resourceful and resilient. And the problem is that everybody I've ever met that is suicidal is holding on to thoughts and situations that cannot, in their mind at that moment, they cannot see a way past. And the only way through is out. In other words, death. But the second you show them the possibility, and actually you don't show them, you guide them so they see it themselves in their own mind. We didn't lose one in 35 years because people saw their own path out. I can't tell them that I see your path out. They're not going to, they don't buy that. They got to see it. They got to feel it. They got to own it. They got to know it. Their brain has to connect to it.
And it has to be theirs.
You got it.
Yeah.
And so all I can be is a guide to enable individuals to be able to find a place of resourcefulness, flexibility, adaptability, and resilience. But that all starts with resourcefulness. And their brain is locked in a why. And when you shift that language pattern into a what and a how, they know what they might do differently because they came up with it.
And it's like the sparks inside your brain are beginning to fire in all cylinders. So you get ideas and you get all this inspiration and all this stuff to create and find that path for yourself.
Exactly. Now, people who have been in like 10-year, 12-year depressions,
Mhm.
like that would take years of counseling traditionally. However, the most I've ever had to work with somebody is 12 sessions.
Mhm.
You know, I do it a week, a month for the first 2 weeks, so 8 sessions. And then over the next 2 months, I do it every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And they figure out how to do it to themselves so that they stay resourceful.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I mean, now they get to figure out, what kind of life do you want?
Yeah.
How do you want to shift? How do you want to be? How do you want to focus?
Yeah. So now you're aspiring to something greater.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
that aspiration is only to have a better life to
Mhm.
start with. That's it. It's not aspirational to, oh, I'm going to be rich. No,
No, no,
I'm
no.
going to live.
No, no. You know, this is one of the things also that as in my studies of mythologies and stuff, and listening to this modern day idea of manifestation just to get everything that I want. You know, what you said is so beautiful because it is about living a good life for me, the way that I see it. You know, and consequently, by you doing that, you know, people will see and they will mimic what you do. But
Correct.
you know, so it goes back to that when you feel better, when you go better, your actions, your behaviors are copied by everyone around you, and consequently, you're making those environments better.
Exactly. So you don't
Yeah.
do it like a smoker does until, like, when a smoker quits smoking it, you've probably seen this, you know, how they turn into these little demigods and go, nobody should smoke, and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
judge
yeah.
everybody.
Yes.
Okay, but if they quit smoking and people see them getting healthy,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the power really is,
It is.
because that is actually they're we call it role playing, but it's not actually role playing. It is, correctly as you stated, mimicry,
Yes.
because people see a more effective way. And when
Mm-hmm.
you see a more effective way, you do a more effective way.
Yeah. And like you said, is the primary way of us learning, you know, mimicking and seeing our people in our environment. I mean, listen, this conversation has been so awesome. And I do have to come to an end. I don't want it to, but
Well,
I
we can
do.
do another one.
We're gonna have to do another one because I feel like even though I do this podcast and I look at it in two ways, I have to learn in order for me to share. And when I see someone like you with the experience, not just theoretical but also practical, and you've seen the changes in people, I'm more intrigued. So, tell us, how do we learn more about you, your work? How do we get connected with your work, and how do people actually begin to take advantage of what you have to offer? Because again, in the world that's become so cynical and so mental health driven for profit, I want something like this. So how do we get in touch with you?
Well, the best way, there's a bunch of different ways. You can go to blairdunkley.com.
Mhm.
And there you can sort of see all of the things that I do there. And you can sign up for the free Blair Dunkley experience every Tuesday night. It's on YouTube. I do that for free.
Mm.
You could just watch it on YouTube, or you can join the Zoom room
Okay.
and join it live and say, hey, I heard from you and I'd like to learn about these mind models. And it's on 358 episodes, eighth episode.
Mm.
So I've done it for over 6 years now.
Oh, wow.
Every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Eastern. So I do that. It's about an hour and a half every show. And I do a podcast that's going to be restarted, actually, called Mind Model Mastery Secrets.
Mm-hmm.
And so that you can find out more there. I've got a secondary podcast that's going to be Mind Model Minutes, and that is going to be launched out. So if you're out there and you want more input, I've got a little one that I'm sending out to people who are interested and sign up for the free profiling session, which is on LinkedIn. So, that I'll make sure you have that as
Yeah,
well.
we didn't even talk about profiling.
No. Yeah, there's so much other stuff. Well, it's all based on what I do. Like
Yes.
the research that I did, and, it's about, somewhere I ask people, so what's the effectiveness?
Mm.
And I go, well, I shoot for 8 out of 10. I don't shoot for 10 out of 10
Yeah.
because I don't want to freak people out.
Yeah. That's very humble of you.
Thank you. Well, I used to, and sometimes it would really freak people out. And then I'd
Yeah.
get accused of being psychic.
Oh,
And sometimes I still do.
yeah.
But I've had psychic experiences. This is not it. I have to think way too hard. And
Isn't that, I mean, isn't that bringing the subconscious into the conscious? Isn't that
it
what it
is,
is?
but it's intentionally being able to do that skillfully.
Yes, correct. But yeah, it's
But
bringing
it's
it
not
up.
about, manifesting or letting
Yeah.
things enter in. It's not about channeling, because I've had weird experiences a few times in my life where that's happened.
Yeah.
This is intentional. See, I
Yeah.
wanted to be a wizard when I was a kid, and I
Who
had
doesn't?
yeah, really. And anyway, that's another story. I won't go.
No, but no, this is great
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Yeah, no, this makes sense to me, right? Because again, the evolution of humans has always gone from the instincts aspect, the emotions to the mental, right? And I don't really think that there's much of a difference between spiritual and what you're talking about. I think it's one of the same. I think is and what we're seeing in science and a lot of the things that we're discovering really through science, through the faculties of our mind, is to make these things practical and to make it accessible in the logical
Absolutely.
sense. And that's what spirituality really strives for. And that's what science strives for, to really understand and be able to use it. I don't see that much of a difference in what you're saying. You're bringing everything that is subconscious that people get subconsciously into an actual practical physical thing that we could use and be aware of. And I think that's the beauty of what I call psycho spiritual, because it is practical. It can be out there, because nothing in the universe is just in this different out there. It's
Yeah.
there. You're just
See,
tapping into it and putting words to it.
yeah. And see, you talked about this instinctual, then emotional, then thinking. And I go, okay. I go, that model doesn't quite work for me because
Mhm.
the research supports that this emotional stuff
Mhm.
actually can pair with thinking. Like it pairs, comes
Yeah.
together. And so every mind model is a blend of the what you feel
Mhm.
and what you think. So it blends it there. But if you go to a why you feel, you ignore thinking.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so if you want to raise your vibration, if you want to be more enlightened, if you will,
Mhm.
then start feeling and thinking simultaneously.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when you do that,
Mhm.
that's where the mind models live.
Mhm.
Because as you're executing the mind model, you feel better.
Yeah.
And as you behave the mind model, you think more clearly.
Yes.
And as you think more with greater clarity,
Yep.
clarity versus certainty, we don't want certainty, we want clarity,
Mhm.
because certainty is from another age.
Yeah.
It's back in the Industrial Revolution where
Yeah.
certainty was there, but
Uh-huh.
now we've evolved beyond that
Yeah.
and we have to update.
Yep.
And when we get into clarity, we feel and act and are clearer.
Yes.
Therefore, clarity is both the combination of feeling and thinking.
Mhm.
Okay.
No, I love it. I love it. I love it. And it's look, I love conversations because I'm always after this, I'm gonna go, and then I'm gonna be like, oh, I should have asked this. I should have asked that. I'm gonna have to reach
Well,
out.
write down your asks and we'll do it next time.
Absolutely. And that this needs to be a second part because I've learned so much. I've gotten so much out of it. And even listening to and I appreciate the redirections because it does force me to think, oh, but think about this. My ideas of interpretations of words are much different than somebody else. So I have to be able to communicate in a way that caters to a certain group because of how they communicate in the way I understand it. So
But
it's all
but
beautiful.
what
Thank
if
you so
you
much.
could figure out, like what I did is I don't want
Uh,
to cater to a certain group. I want to have it so that everybody
mhm.
has got at least an 80% probability of being able to do that,
Yeah.
of getting it. And
Yeah.
that's what I test. That's how come it took me 17 and a half years
Mm.
to figure out simple ideas, because simple ideas aren't that simple.
No, no, they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so these simple things are proven, tested, and mindset does, when you get into, there is no testing except for the research done through the Association of Psychological Science, testing the assumptions that were in the book Mindset
Mm.
with Carol Dweck, Dr. Carol Dweck, there's the name.
Yeah.
Her stuff, they actually gave her a verbal wrist slap in that
Mm.
publication saying, you're overstating what mindset can do. They
Mm.
didn't say it can't do anything because they got in their tests 1% efficacy.
Yeah.
1%. But if you do something
Oof.
that's 80% efficacy, that's 8,000 times more.
Yes, it is.
So do you want one chance or 8,000 times more
Mhm.
ability to shift yourself? What do you want?
Yeah.
And that's mindset versus mind models.
Yeah.
Mind models come down.
Thank you for listening to the ASQ Podcast. Remember to lead your life, shape your culture, begin within. Subscribe now and join the movement.